Okay, you left me with the engine in bits over on the table there and replacing the piston rings. And that was all I did on the engine. I just replaced the piston rings, cleaned up the bores and reassembled it. And after a bit of cranking, it fired up. We got the carburetor a bit rich, so it took me a load of cranking because I had full choke on. And in fact, we had to, as I blipped the throttle, you could hear it was getting happier. So in other words, it told me it was over rich. And we put the choke in, and all of a sudden it was happy and it fired up. Now we did find something else, another reason why the engine wouldn't fire earlier. On the crankshaft pulley, the lug that locates it for top dead center had been flattened off, and the pulley was about 30 degrees out from top dead center. So the poor chaps that were trying to start this really had no chance. It was all a bit of a mess. So that was another problem that we resolved. Okay, so let's see if we can fire it up in that case, just to show it. I put water in the cooling, and I think I can see it just dripping from the water pump, unfortunately, which is slightly irritating, but never mind. So, on with some power. Let's give the ignition some electricity, and there's our starter motor. So, we're not going to do any choke because we think that will probably fire without it. I'll be the throttle. Let's go. Well, there we are. Okay, so we'll let that warm through and see if the water pump settles down. It'd be nice if it did, but it seems unlikely, doesn't it? I'll probably be replacing that water pump. Once this is warmed through, we'll then put in some motor flush and run that for 40 minutes to clear all the horrible disgusting out of there, and then I'll do another oil and filter change and put a proper Volvo filter on it. So that's where we are there. Now, let me show you a couple of things we did underneath. So the clutch, turns out it was again the battery that had corroded. The battery had obviously split at some point, dropped acid out and corroded the clutch pipe. So I've actually stolen a bit of Air-Equip hosing off our old Amazon that is a throwback to when we competed in her. So I'll put the standard clutch pipe back into our Amazon, and I've stolen the Air-Equip for this. And let's pop underneath. Okay, so there's our clutch hose coming down. We put a new slave cylinder on. Now here's one to watch out for. This caught me, which I was really annoyed not having to have spotted it. The clutch slave here, when it had been packaged, they put the bleed on the bottom and left the top one just with a plastic bung, and I didn't notice this, so of course we'd bled it all and then rigged it, only to find that of course the bleed screw was on the bottom and the hose was on the top, so we had to do it all again, which was really irritating and slightly embarrassing from my point of view. Now whilst we're here, let's just have a look at this. So if I put my hand on the engine breather here, I can feel no puffs at all. So that's good news. It means we've got no blowback past the pistons. So that's really exciting. And coming aft, the gearbox needed a load of oil, so I put oil in the gearbox. Before before we moved her, I slacked off the rear drums completely so we could roll her around the workshop, and also I've removed the pads from the calipers, which these were binding, and I've now readjusted up the drums so they're correctly adjusted, so I can drive this around and use the handbrake to stop myself without having to touch the foot brakes. So we have at the moment just ever such a little drip here from the water pump. There is still a chance that that'll sort itself out. So we've had a new thermostat in here, of course, was the obvious thing. A thermostat that stood almost always is seized, so never don't replace the thermostat when doing this job. And I checked the temperature gauge before I hooked it back up again, and that's working. So we're just waiting now for the temperature to come through and register on the temperature gauge, and then when we're up to temperature, in goes that. So what next? Well, we've got a car in now, so we're going to take a little bit of a break on this and take her off the ramps, but I'll take her around the farm just to check out that gearbox, and everything else sounds happy. Then the next task really will be to sort the brakes out, and then we have to ponder what we're going to do with the car, because that more or less will be almost ready to MOT if we do those sills, the sill welding. So we'll have a discussion then. But right now we're good. We've got clutch, we've got an engine running, we've got to go through the electrics as well, but that's good progress. And a nice quick job on the engine, although I wouldn't recommend you do that with your own, for reasons we gave in the last video. And that's it. Yeah, no, the thermostat hasn't opened up yet, so we're still just warming up the engine. That'll take another 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll put the flush in there. Cool, we'll talk to you sometime next week, I guess. Thank you very much.